We have a lot to cover in today's video, including the latest trade talk from around the NHL. Tonight, we're focusing on teams like the Columbus Blue Jackets, Toronto Maple Leafs, Calgary Flames, and Arizona Coyotes. We have more big news from the NHL waiver wire, including further information on Corey Perry. We also have another waiver wire situation as well. We have a fine in the NHL from player safety, several injury updates as well, and some other big news regarding the NHL All-Star Game. All that, including more on Patrick Kane as well, coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton of news to cover here today. There's already been a couple other videos on the channel today, so a couple of quick items I'm just going to touch on here quickly. But of course, the big news today, really two pieces. One was Patrick Kane signing with the Detroit Red Wings, a one-year deal for the remainder of the season, at $2.75 million. Reports are he did have other options that were offering multiple years, but opted to go to Detroit. He was really impressed with the style of coaching and everything that the Red Wings were selling as far as head coach Derek Lalonde and Steve Yzerman. Of course, the connection to Alex DeBrincat certainly didn't hurt either. And Kane will be a Red Wing. No clear-cut timeline yet when he's going to make his debut and play his first game, but it's expected he'll probably practice with the team and debut sometime within the next week or so. So Patrick Kane is officially a Detroit Red Wing. And the big news today, possibly even the bigger news, because we knew the Kane signing was coming at some point here soon, and we knew Detroit was a front runner, but we did not know the Chicago Blackhawks were going to terminate the contract of Corey Perry. So waiver wire news today, we got Corey Perry on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination. The Blackhawks have had, they did put out a statement earlier, and then there was also a press conference from GM Kyle Davidson later in the day, early this evening, to not only kind of address the situation, but to kind of squash some of the rumors. As I talked about in the Perry video earlier, there is some nasty rumors going around that Perry was having relations with Connor Bedard's mother. That is not true at all. There was no evidence to suggest that, and Kyle Davidson said that this situation involving Corey Perry had absolutely nothing to do with any other player on the team or their families, and the rumors are inaccurate and, quite frankly, disgusting. So I would like to see people stop spreading that. It's certainly not any truth to it. The Bedard family does not deserve to have that all over the internet. Whatever Corey Perry did certainly seemed like, it's pretty serious for sure. Kyle Davidson seemed pretty, a little bit choked up and emotional talking about it at the press conference earlier. Said they wanted to act quickly. There was some sort of incident that was a workplace matter. That's really all we know. So Corey Perry did something at the rink or at work. Doesn't seem to involve his teammates, so I don't know if it had something to do with the coach or somebody else that works in the organization. It's really difficult to say, and there's really no point in speculating because we have no bloody clue. I mean, there's lots of things we can rule out, but we may or may not ever find more details. It's hard to say, and I'm sure, like I said, Corey Perry may or may not want to appeal this through the NHLPA. I don't know if he will or not. Time will tell. But Corey Perry, as of tomorrow, will no longer be on the Hawks roster. The contract will be terminated. He will not be paid any longer, and the cap hit will be removed from their salary cap obligations. The other news from the waiver wire today is the Pittsburgh Penguins placed right shot defenseman Will Butcher on waivers for the purpose of being assigned to the minor leagues in Wilkes-Barre Scranton. So he'll go down and play with the American Hockey League team. So that was your bigger news stories here of the day. Of course, last night we had absolute mayhem in Ottawa, led to Sens forward Zach McEwen being fined today. He was fined a maximum amount for unsportsmanlike conduct in the CBA, which is a small amount, $2,018.23. Chump change for most of these players, but it was a thumping from the Panthers, 5-0. It was Brady Tkachuk against Matthew Tkachuk, and basically the third period was complete mayhem, just brawl after brawl, and the players were just going at each other like ridiculously. We saw at one point the referee announced that every player on the ice was given a 10-minute misconduct and kicked out of the game, essentially. It was a pretty crazy scenario. Ultimately, the Sens lost another important home game. Fans want change. They want a new coach. They're not going to get it, unfortunately. Steve Staios and Michael Andlauer preaching patience and stability still, and are not ready to pull the trigger on a coaching change. So for right now, we'll see what happens. They do play again on Friday and Saturday on the road. Maybe that'll be the best thing for them, but this team certainly showed immaturity. It certainly showed that they were not ready to start the game. They were hemmed in early. There were even a little bit of frustration internally with, I know goaltender Jonas Korpisalo was banging his stick a few times because the players weren't coming back for the puck. And it was absolute mayhem not only within the game, and Matthew Tkachuk at one point was tackled by Zach McEwen. Now, Matthew Tkachuk was being Matthew Tkachuk and being an absolute menace all night and tormenting Jonas Korpisalo, the Sens goalie. He slashed at him and just was poking at him and just doing things that were not really appropriate, but they weren't really, over the top for him. A lot of players wouldn't do those kind of antics, but this is not unusual for who we're talking about here. So eventually McEwen came off the bench and just absolutely ran after Tkachuk and tackled him. And anyways, he was given a match penalty and kicked out of the game. Instead of being suspended, the automatic one game that comes with it, he was fined instead. And then from there, Matthew Tkachuk, after he was tackled by Zach McEwen, this is how scummy he can be at times. He goes to the Sens bench talking to his brother, and he says, because of what happened, he says, Sanderson and Timmy are dead. So, meaning that they're going to just go run them and basically attack them. And fortunately, nothing happened. But Sanderson did answer the bell and fought Tkachuk, even though he really had nothing to do with it. I'm surprised Matthew Tkachuk actually dropped the gloves, considering he normally turtles and runs away. But ultimately, he was being the pest he normally is, and get under the skin and completely threw the Sens off their game, and they completely shit the bed last night and put up a stinker. So we'll see what happens next time they play, because I'm sure there'll be lots of bad blood that'll be boiling over next time they do battle when we have Tkachuk versus Tkachuk round 2 this year. Lots of other news and notes around the league. Some injury updates. The Flyers forward Noah Cates going to be out of action with a lower body injury for 6 to 8 weeks. So that's unfortunate for him. That's going to be a long stretch. The Rangers have lost Capo Caco. He was placed on LTIR due to a significant lower body injury. That looked pretty nasty when he fell last night in the Ranger game against the Sabres. Didn't look good at all. The good news is they do expect him to be able to return before the end of the regular season, but he will be missing significant time. He and Philip Hedl were both placed on long-term injury reserve today, and Adam Fox is activated and ready to come back. The Rangers also called up Adam Enstrom and Johnny Brzezinski to take some roster spots for the time being as well. Some other notes around the NHL. Of course, we saw a coaching change in Minnesota very recently here in the last day or so. Minnesota's now today, they've confirmed Patrick Dwyer also will be joining John Hynes, the new head coach, as an assistant. He comes up from their minor league team from the American Hockey League. And of course, in case you didn't really think about it before, John Hynes actually, in my opinion, he's not an upgrade, and I don't know that he's going to get this team any further along than Dean Evison did, but he does have a long-standing relationship with Bill Guerin. They've known each other a long time, good friends, and he was also previously hired by senior advisor Ray Shero of the Minnesota Wild when he got the job in New Jersey. So certainly a guy that was well connected to the management and advisor staff with the Wild. So no big surprise that he's their hand-picked new head coach to replace Evison on that front. The Buffalo Sabres have finally done the right thing and sent goaltender Devin Levi down to the American Hockey League. No clear-cut exactly timeline on how long he'll be there, but certainly he has struggled mightily this year in the NHL. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's played a lot better as of late, won a few games in a row, and they certainly want to give him the net and run with it for a period of time here. They also have Eric Comrie still, so it makes sense to give Levi time to develop and just go down to the American Hockey League and find his game. So that's much needed, and I'm glad to see that. I think that's the best thing for him long term. The NHL's also confirmed some big changes to the All-Star Game. Of course, it'll be held in Toronto this year. They're bringing back the All-Star Game draft. So essentially, each team is going to have a captain as well as a celebrity captain that they'll be joined by, and they're going to draft teams this year. So I know there's some that are heavily against that. Some think it's fun. I'm not sure the exact, everything about the All-Star Game, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I know other leagues have abandoned this style of game for the most part as well, saying that the ratings have dropped. So be curious to see how the NHL fans react. The PWHL players as well, the new women's league, will be featured at the All-Star festivities as well, doing some 3-on-3 games. And the PWHL also confirmed that their season will launch on New Year's Day, January the 1st. And there are going to be games on the 1st and the 2nd, getting things kicked off. I believe the first game will be in Toronto, and I believe they're playing the team from New York, if I'm not mistaken. So, so lots of news on that front. As far as the rumor mill goes, there's rumors out of Columbus that another player might want out, and that's youngster Yegor Chinakhov. Chinakhov was the first-round pick back just 3 years ago. Apparently he's unhappy, and he's pretty close to requesting a trade. Hasn't done so as of yet, but according to his agent, who recently did an interview with Brian Hedger of the Columbus Dispatch, he says that he feels like the team doesn't trust him, and that he came close to leaving the team before during his rookie season and heading back to Russia because he was feeling homesick, but he decided to stick it out. He's stuck around, and now he's not really enjoying the direction of the team and feels like he's not getting basically properly utilized, and that they don't trust him to play the role that he feels he deserves. So hasn't happened yet, but we could see this young player ask for a trade and get moved here soon. There was also some rumors about another one of their young Russian players as well wanting to head back home because of being homesick as well, but apparently that's also been denied for the time being, and that they've decided to stick around and give it a chance further along. So we'll see where that goes, but it's mind-boggling how Columbus seems to have these issues more than a lot of other teams. Kevin Weeks is reporting that big defenseman Nikita Zadorov has about 4 teams inquiring with the Flames for his services. I know the Flames at this point have been playing better as of late, so I don't think they're in a huge rush to get this done, but I think that Craig Conroy certainly at some point is going to acknowledge that a lot of these guys, including Zadorov, who's made it clear he does not want to re-sign, will get moved at some point. The teams remaining in the mix for Zadorov's services, according to Weeks, include the New York Islanders, the New Jersey Devils, the Dallas Stars, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. We know that the Leafs and the Devils have both been pretty clear that they want to add some size and strength on the back end. Of course, Brad Tree, living in Toronto, has a good existing relationship with this player because he brought him to Calgary, and the Islanders recently suffered a couple of injuries, including a significant one to Adam Pelech, so it makes sense that they'd be in the mix to try to add a defenseman as well, and Dallas is looking for some upgrades too, so we'll see. Zadorov is getting lots of attention, but like I said, because the Flames are playing better, I certainly think Craig Conroy doesn't really feel the need to rush into this, so they're going to make sure they get the right deal done. And another team looking to add a defenseman and has a lot of interest in a Flames defender, surprisingly, is the Arizona Coyotes. It's been a long time since we've heard the Coyotes want to add players or improve things to make a run at the playoffs, because they've been anything but a playoff team for a really long time. But there are reports confirmed by Coyotes insider Craig Morgan that previous reports that we had heard about a week and a half ago that the Coyotes had interest, and it actually came from Elliot Friedman, if I'm not mistaken, that the Coyotes were interested in Noah Hanifin out of Calgary. He says there are some truth to that. That story does have some legs, and that they apparently have not been pleased with defenseman Matt Dumba, and are looking to find a way to upgrade their blue line. They've obviously exceeded expectations a bit this year, and feel like, especially with where everything is at right now with the Western Conference, that they actually do have a chance to get into the playoffs this year. And they want to make sure if they have a chance that they can take advantage of that and get in. So making some blue line upgrades appears to be a bit of a priority for Bill Armstrong in Arizona. And Hanifin is a guy they have their eye on. So I don't know what Hanifin would feel like for re-signing. I know the Flames were most interested in trading him to a team where he could get a new contract so they could get a better return. I don't know if he'd want to go to Arizona longer term. Hard to say with any certainty that he would. If he doesn't, it's certainly going to negate what they can get back in a return, and they may prefer to go somewhere else where he can sign. Speaking of defensemen, that's the theme of the rumor section of today's video. The Maple Leafs also in the mix, not only for Nikita Zadorov, But they might be looking at bringing back a former defenseman who they had a couple seasons back, and according to Darren Dreger of TSN, and that's Ducks defenseman Ilya Lyubushkin. Right shot defenseman, good size, physical guy, could play with, could play in the top four, might be a good partner for Morgan Riley. Obviously, they want to add some snarl on that back end and some size and strength. And he also, like Zadorov, could be another candidate. Of course, he's making, I think, $2.75 million. Anaheim could probably retain on that, and they could get that under $2 million to make that more affordable for Toronto. Might be, as much as they like Zadorov, it might be a cheaper way to go, depending on what the asking prices are from the Flames. I mean, we know Chris Tanev's name has been out there as well. I wouldn't rule out that possibility because Trey Living knows him extremely well as well. So we'll see what happens, but Lyubushkin's another name to watch and in the mix for the Leafs. But it's no surprise here that Brad Treliving's big focus will be kind of reinventing that Leaf blue line. But depending on how the offense goes here in the next little while, wouldn't be surprising if they maybe look to make some changes or additions up front as well. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors. It's been a very busy NHL news cycle today. Lots of things going on, so lots of videos on the channel. Let me know your thoughts on all of it down in the comment section so we can discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news and rumors around the entire league. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.